the quote that resonated the most with me was, most people will look at somebody who's 10 years ahead of them and assume that's where they've been forever. And they'll assume that where they are in this moment is where they're going to be stuck forever.
Without self-improvement, there goes my relationship with Amelia, gone. There goes this business, gone. There goes my health and fitness, gone. Everything of value in life, I think, is a byproduct of becoming a better version of who you are. And to me, that was the one thing that makes the most sense once I figured that out.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. Today, we switched the way we do the intro. I've been doing it for so long, it's just autopilot. Today, for episode number 1751, the best and worst advice ever. I was peeing, and then I thought of this episode for some reason.
Nice.
Or showering. One of the two. Usually those are where my thoughts come in.
Or both.
No.
I'm kidding.
Nope. I used to pee in the shower. 100%. Everybody does. Hey, look. Everybody does.
There's two types of people in this world. There's people who pee in the shower, and there's liars.
My wife does not.
I know. And then there's also Taryn.
I was forced to stop, and it was devastating.
It was
so if you want to judge me because I have peed in the shower at prior times, you may do so, but I no longer do it. I'm clean. So I was thinking of this episode based on the fact that we were talking to Amy on one of our calls recently, and we were talking about how we have gotten some terrible advice in the past. Some just downright terrible advice from mentors or friends or family or whoever. I think we were speaking specifically on mentors. And I said that would be a cool episode to do. What is the best piece of advice we've ever been given, and what is the worst? The worst piece of advice I've ever been given is an easy one for me. It doesn't have to do with business or entrepreneurship or any of that. The worst piece of advice I've ever gotten was, don't ever get married, it's a trap. That's the worst advice I've ever gotten. And when I look back, it makes sense because most of the people that gave me that advice were unhappy men. And again, not to generalize, but I wasn't necessarily hanging out with groups of women. I was hanging out with groups of men. Or I'd meet someone and they'd say, oh, the old ball and chain.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
The other reason I was thinking of
missus,
this, the missus,
that kind of thing.
The boss, and I say that occasionally.
Think about the metaphor of
joke.
ball and chain.
I know.
It's like being chained down to an anchor.
It's a tough one.
That's not a good metaphor for someone you love.
Yeah, it's not a good metaphor it's a good metaphor for something you hate, for sure. Yeah, like my job, the old ball and chain, is like, yeah, no, your job kind of does suck. I can understand why you feel
100%.
like you're anchored there. I was watching a dumb sitcom that I like to watch when I'm turning my brain off called
Which one?
Rules of Engagement. There's a movie called Rules of Engagement as well. It's not that.
Yeah.
David
I never
Spade's
saw
in it.
either.
David Spade's in it, so that pretty much tells you all you need to know about the seriousnwas of it. Joe Dirt. But it is super funny.
The 90s, they came out with some stupid movies in the 90s.
This was the 2000s, son.
Oh, early 2000s as well.
Mid 2000s.
Really?
Yeah, this wasn't that long ago, I don't think.
When you say mid 2000s, you're talking like 2005?
No, I mean like 2010s.
Oh, gotcha.
Probably. I'd have to look. But it's one of those things where there's a group of guys and one of the guys is engaged and everybody's ragging on him. Like, oh, you're getting ready for execution. You're on death row now. And when I was listening to that, I was like, it's the dumbest thing ever. It's the dumbest thing ever. That's like saying, what is that like saying? You do something and it goes terribly wrong, mostly because of you. You have a lot of influence in why it goes terrible, and then you tell someone else not to do it.
Yeah.
Like, well, it's going to be terrible for you, too. It's like, I don't know. I don't really think the way you approached it was very positive or constructive. So that's probably the dumbest advice I've ever heard. I understand, based on the fact that 50% of marriages end up in divorce. So a lot of for every piece of good advice you get.
Now.
Is it?
It's more than that. Yeah. And the divorce rate for people in their 20s, people who get married in their 20s. And for anyone, by the way, who is married, please just understand. Don't hate the statistician, just the statistics, right?
Nice.
Thank you. So I think it's way higher for people who get married in their 20s.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Well, because you're still very young. You don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, how much have we changed in the decade, right?
A lot and very
A lot.
little in some ways. But so for every good piece of advice you get, there's at least 5 pieces of bad advice that you're going to get when it comes to relationships, statistically speaking.
Mm-hmm.
When Tara and I are out, she always asks people. She always asks married couples.
Yep.
And I always make a joke. I say, babe, just because they give us advice doesn't mean it's good advice. We don't know what's going on behind when they go back home. We don't know what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
They're at a wedding with a couple cocktails. Everybody's having a good time. They might fire off some good advice, but we don't know what's happening back home. So that's probably the worst advice I've ever gotten is don't get married. It's a trap. Or when you get married, you give up your freedom in some way, shape, or form. If you marry someone who isn't aligned, sure. But I think marriage has been wonderful, and I've learned so much about myself and my wife, and I've grown a lot, and we've grown together, and we've grown in our own ways. And so, what is the worst advice you've ever been given, sir? We'll start with
That's actually way harder than the other
That's
question.
why I went there.
Yeah. I told Kev before this, I said, I've gotten so much bad advice. Genuinely, I don't know what it would be. It's so hard to pick one. It's like when someone asks your favorite movie, I have one, but there's a list.
Is your favorite movie Good Will Hunting?
No, it's up there though.
It's changed then. It
It
was
was Good Will
right?
Hunting way back. The Lion King resonates very deeply because of the father. They're coming out with a new one, not real life one, but animated. You know how there's the cartoon and then they make, the computer generated.
I don't really get it, to be honest with you.
There's a new one coming out called Mufasa. So,
Okay.
anyways, I'm excited. So, worst piece I've gotten so much. I don't know. I need to think. I need more time to think.
You want to start with the best?
Yes.
Go on.
The best is, you already know this. When I was young, I got ridiculed one time for saying this, and it's always, I just laugh so hard because you know the advice.
Of course.
One time, Kev and I were doing an episode about this. So the piece of advice I got when I was very young, my mom, I actually gave her credit for this. I was texting her recently. I said, thank you so much for this. The best advice I ever got was my mom sat me down and she really lectured on this. And I really listened. I don't think my sister listened nearly as much as I did. And here's the problem too. When you listen, you often listen to the good advice and the bad advice. And I told my mom straight up, listen, you've given me some terrible advice too. But I do want to give you credit. This was amazing advice. Okay, Alan, we get it. What's the advice? She sat me down. She said, Alan, you can be a CEO or you can be a farmer. I'm going to love you either way. When you aim high in life, you'll have choices. If you decide to go for CEO, you can wake up one day and decide, you know what, I'm unhappy. I'm going to be a farmer. But it doesn't work the other way around. So you got to aim high. And she taught me to aim high. And I actually texted her this recently. I said, I took that to heart. I aimed as high as you can aim in everything. And I now realize that you need a lot of self-belief to do that. But I wonder to myself, if I always aimed high, I would have to build self-belief in order to achieve those things. So I wonder if it's chicken or egg. And so Kevin and I, we try really hard to break this down. So we don't think you should aim super, super high and then crush your self-esteem and self-confidence when you fail.
It's bumper sticker self-improvement right there.
It is. We think instead what you should do is aim really high in terms of your vision. I think this is the way I would articulate it. Try to aim at the highest good that you can believe in, that you can conceptualize and believe in. The highest good, not just for your family and for you, but for the world. And then, or that's the vision. That's the vision board. That's the future. But then you have to create these little incremental goals along the way. And Kevin and I just finished doing that today. We did our quarterly goals for Q3 today. And make sure those are achievable. So it's almost like the vision can be really pie in the sky. It really can. But the quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily goals need to be very achievable. Because apparently, there's a book called The Molecule of More, and it talks about dopamine receptors and how dopamine is actually supposed to be a reward chemical for achievement. And so when you achieve something and you make progress toward a meaningful goal, you get more dopamine. And the neuroscience shows that if you fail too much, too often, you actually lose dopamine receptors. And so I think as a young boy, whether it was video games or sports or whatever, I did a lot of stuff as a kid. I think I just gained a lot of dopamine receptors. And in the book, it's called dopaminergic. People with high levels of dopamine are very intense and very driven, that kind of thing. But it's also, you can change it over time. Like, I think you have rewired a lot in the last 7 years towards way more of an achievement orientation. I think it would be very hard for you to like take a month off. I know you think it would be easy.
It would be easy. I took 2 weeks off in Scotland. I'm telling you, it would be easy.
Really?
Yeah.
You wouldn't
I
miss
could
achievement?
Just turn it off.
I
think it's because I'm not naturally wired the way you are. So I think you can always, the path to your natural is always a little bit less, it's paved tighter.
Yeah.
You know, is there any science behind what I'm saying?
But
No.
what about, it would be easier for you to take a month off 7 years ago than now.
Well, I mean, I wasn't doing much back then.
But what I meant is you were better at R&R back then. Like, you like achievement
so.
more now. Is that
Yes. But I still like R&R.
fair? More than achievement?
No, it gets boring and unfulfilling.
Yeah. Well,
But
that's
if
my
you
point.
said you're going to spend a month traveling the finest places in Spain, it's like I could hammer out 30 episodes. You and we could hammer out 30 episodes. I could take some time for me,
Okay.
my wife.
Fair. I don't think that yeah.
Well, you're not supposed to be doing that. We had a conversation right before this where I was like, dude, I whispered to Alan, I said, hey, man, can I tell you something? I think I like traveling. I think I like, I don't know, man. I'm afraid of planes, but I kind of think I like flying now. What do you think about that?
Cool. It's quite
And
the
that's what he
evolution.
said. He said, cool, that's what you should be doing.
Real quick, one more piece of advice that was really powerful in hindsight. One of my mentors, very successful CEO of tech companies, robotics companies, he said, never do anything that feels too unnatural. And I was actually talking to him at the time about my relationship because I was asking him if the way I felt was normal, because he had been divorced, and he said, Alan, don't do anything that feels too unnatural, because I'm an achiever at heart. I always have been, I always will be, and I'm finally accepting that about myself, obviously. But back then I was with a non-achiever. And Emilia's an achiever through and through. I mean, to her core. And my last girlfriend wasn't, like, at all. And I wondered to myself, is this ever going to work? Can I actually be with someone who, like, doesn't care about achievement? I don't know why I say like so much. It's so annoying. And the answer is no. There's no way. In hindsight, it's very obvious. No way. Now, does that mean they have to be the same level of achiever as me? Emilia's a higher achiever than I am prior to meeting me. But sometimes that's back and forth, though, because we're both extremely type A achievers. But if you're out there watching or listening, to bring this to you, he said, don't do anything that feels too unnatural. And I think what he was trying to say is you can improve who you are, but you can't change who you are at your core fully. You know how people always argue, people don't change. People can't change. And then on the other side, people are like, no, of course you can. Growth mindset. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. I think you can improve everything about yourself, Kev, but I think there's certain things that your natural inclinations, whether it's epigenetics and or your upbringing or both, nature versus nurture, I think there's certain things that are never going to fully change.
I agree.
And I think that's a hell of a duality, but anyways.
I think I don't want to say over improve, but you can improve out of alignment. Where you've heard me say this before, you'd ask me, do you think this person's going to be really successful? And I'd say, I feel like too much of their character and like who they are at their essence would have to change. No. Because I don't think it would be good for them. I actually don't think it would be good for them to be the level of successful that they say they want to be.
Yep.
Just being somebody who has had to change so much about myself. Luckily, I'm still in alignment, but...
You were way more accurate than I thought.
Well, I think I was somebody who didn't really know. I thought I knew what I wanted. I thought I knew what it would require of me to get what I wanted, and then I realized pretty quickly that I had no idea what any of that really meant. Honestly. How do you know?
I didn't know what I didn't understand. You said if you're wrong about one thing, you're wrong about everything, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think it's one of the best quotes ever. If I don't understand that it's part of my nature to be an achiever, I will unintentionally project that onto other people. Because when I found self-improvement, to me it was, how could anyone not be obsessed with self-improvement? Self-improvement is the answer. I mean, it's the way you achieve everything you want in life. Without self-improvement, there goes my relationship with Amelia, gone. There goes this business, gone. There goes my health and fitness, gone. Everything of value in life, I think, is a byproduct of becoming a better version of who you are. And to me, that was the one thing that makes the most sense once I figured that out. And I couldn't understand why so little amount of the world was as obsessed as I was, but now I understand. And so,
do you empathize? Do you empathize with that now? Not empathize. Yeah, maybe understand's a better phrase, because you just said you would put your beliefs on other people, and I think that's what people are doing to you when they tell you to, hey man, you ever thought of taking a day off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say I've matured, and yes, I would, but it's a duality, because you also have to hold a standard.
For sure.
I mean, where do you draw the line on that? Well, what if I don't want to take care of my kids? Okay, well, what if I don't want, right? So the whole world goes to crap when you allow anyone to be anything, you know? So again, it's not my job to tell other people who they should be. But I do believe, and this is the duality, I do believe that everyone would benefit. Everyone would benefit from self-improvement. Here's the thing. I used to say, you can achieve this and become this. Now I say, let's uncover who you really are and then improve from that place. And let's set goals from that place. Because if your goals are based on low self-awareness, you're in trouble.
Definitely.
Hello, NLU listener. Thank you, as always, for listening to Next Level University. Real quick, I just want to jump in and let you know about the Next Level Dreamliner. This is a journal that I use every single day. Achieve your dreams 90 days at a time. It breaks down your dreams into goals, milestones, and daily habits. We hope you enjoy it. The link will be in the show notes. Yeah. So for you, what's the best advice you ever got?
I was told one time by a wee lad, at the time. I think that the best piece of advice I was ever
he
given.
Wee at the time?
He was wee at the time. Was
BS,
probably from you. It's probably from you.
And he was wee?
You was wee. Yeah, you were wee. You were weeer than you are today. That's how it works.
Muscularly?
No, just I don't know. Just go with the story.
Okay.
Yeah. Just ad-lib it. Just go with the story.
Mm-hmm.
You were wee. What were you having? You had a sandwich that day. What kind of sandwich was it?
It was bologna and cheese.
Bologna and cheese. And you had chips. Were they salt and vinnies or were they onion?
Potato chips.
Okay. Perfect.
Excellent improv class.
Yeah. This you wanted to be an actor. You wanted to be in Hollywood for a time. I can see why you wanted to be behind the scenes.
Emilia and I improv. You know why? We go off the rails with this. And then I rode on my unicorn into the forest where there was fairies, and Steve McQueen came out with thick ass glasses, and we do like story time like that. So I actually had to lock a lot up there.
Okay. That seems to me like something somebody would say if they didn't know what to say. They would make up a story about doing it. You know what I mean? Like, I could lift all the weight in this gym. I honestly usually do that behind closed doors. I don't like to draw that much attention to myself. It's just kind of a thing for me. I get nervous in public.
So what was the advice from the wee lad?
From the wee lad. Probably big things start small. That is probably, it's not really, I don't know if you consider it advice, but it kind of is if you take it as the potential for advice. If I've learned anything, we just had a conversation right before this about something similar to this. I understand why most people quit, because it doesn't seem like you're making almost any progress for most of the time.
Yeah, it's brutal.
And this is, I've said many quotes, and I'm not pumping my own tires here, but this is the quote that resonated the most with me was, most people will look at somebody who's 10 years ahead of them and assume that's where they've been forever. And they'll assume that where they are in this moment is where they're going to be stuck forever. And it's really hard to, I won't put words in your mouth. One of the people that Alan used to look up to, I don't know if you still do, Greg Plitt, had something on his, one of his quotes was, "It's what you do in the dash."
Yeah,
So you're
I have
born
it
on
down
this
here.
date.
It's what you do in the dash. It's a wooden plaque. I think he's very motivating, and I think he had a lot of truth that he delivered in a powerful way that helps you stay motivated. He's no longer a hero.
Well, I didn't.
But
That's
he
why I didn't
definitely
wanna,
helps me stay motivated in fitness. Yeah.
that it's what you do in the dash. Kind of the same, along the same lines, is when somebody's been doing something for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, all you see is today. You see the result of the work over the time. And big things start small. Everything started small. Everything started small. And a lot of things still feel very small because they're going to get much bigger. So that's helped me. Yeah, that's helped me tremendously. Podcast Growth U has like 3,000 listens or something. And in my mind, it's like, I don't even care. I don't care if it has any lists. I could care
That's
less.
3,000. That's 3 times what we had.
Yeah. Well, it's more. I've done 104 episodes. I'm 2 years into this.
Oh, you're 2 years in.
So I'm actually
Okay.
way below.
Yeah, but
where
we were
2
full
years
time
ago.
on that. That's the difference. Is we were full time, right?
But it's not even about that. To me, I'm grateful for everyone who's listened. I'm grateful for all the levels of impact I'm having. I don't care. Whatever. I'm going to do it for the next however long, and it'll grow, and it'll just keep growing, and that's just not something I had. That's not a perspective I had in the beginning. So I would say big things start small.
Let me add this real quick. As long as in tandem you are still putting are you putting in, you can't just let it grow. You have to also improve your craft and try to add more value over time. And I think that's the caveat is.
Well, that would have been a long lesson. So
Of course.
I just started with this. I assumed you'd jump in.
I love this, man. You know what I was thinking about? I know we got to transition to the bad advice. I'm postponing because I don't know so much bad advice. It's just like I picture a giant garbage truck with most of what anyone's ever told me. The thing I was thinking about recently, I had a client who asked me my 5 favorite books, and they're behind me. You actually can't see them on camera right now, but they're always behind me on my Zoom. And I said, just so you know, I need to make this clear. It's not because the authors are great. I actually don't even want to associate with people anymore. It's like a thing now because there's too many, even Greg Plitt, there's too much. Don't associate me with him. I like ideas. I said it's the concepts and the ideas that matter. She's like, well, why those books? So the books are Rationality, Essentialism, The Compound Effect, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. And it was Atomic Habits. I switched it to Same as Ever by Morgan Housel. I don't know Morgan Housel. I know his books and I know his work. And it seems to me like he's a stand-up gentleman, but I don't know him behind the scenes. I told this client, it's not because of the authors. It's very hard for me to separate the authors from the work because I think character matters most in life. But Brene Brown's work, let me give you an example. Brene Brown's work is magnificent. Brene Brown herself is not a bad person. Please don't hate me for saying this. She's a little bit of a mess, in my opinion. She's a little all over the place. And again, I'm projecting onto her based on my standards. The point is Brene, it's her work that I think is magnificent. And I think Brene herself is magnificent in her own right too, but that's not what I'm focused on. If I listen to her work and it changes my life, and I think this is a unique thing for me, I wonder if other people can separate the person from the work. I think they try. Okay. But anyways, so the reason
I think they I don't know if I'll speak for myself. I don't know if people want to.
It's hard to do. because I have some speeches that are magnificent in terms of learning that I can't stand the person.
Yeah.
So, and that's really hard for me, genuinely. It's
Same.
hard to separate. It really is. Especially if I think you're a bad human being. But I don't want to associate with anyone anymore in a way. It's this weird thing that I'm going through where I even say the Steve Jobs quote behind me. I say, well, he was a hero of mine. He no longer is. And it's not that I don't respect his work and admire many things about him, but there's so many things about him I don't admire. And I think that, anyways, the point of all that is I care, and you'll notice this from now on, anyone listening, if you listen to Kevin and I's show, I love ideas and concepts. That's what I live for, is ideas, understandings, and concepts. I don't care. I don't talk, it's persons, places, things, and ideas. I don't talk about persons, places, and things nearly as much as I talk about ideas. And have you ever heard that quote of mediocre minds? I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt. She said, mediocre minds talk about people. Good minds talk about places and things or
Don't look at me like I'm the quote guy.
I don't know. And then the third one is great minds talk about ideas.
Yeah.
I think great minds talk about ideas they're going to implement to make the world a better place. That's what we do on this podcast. We're always talking about ideas. Yeah, we shoot the shit about classic rock versus alternative rock, and occasionally we'll talk about energy drinks or whatever. We go on tangents. But at the end of the day, the point is to help everyone have a deeper understanding and to build bigger, better, brighter future. So anyways, let's go.
If you don't give us the worst advice you've ever gotten, I'm leaving. What is it? Stop delaying.
The worst advice I've ever gotten. Okay, the worst advice I've ever gotten is something along, and I've gotten this advice in many different packages from many different people. You should try to achieve more by doing less. I think that that's terrible advice. I think it's dangerous advice. And the reason why is it's so layered. So I'll go quick with this. But I'm reading a book right now called 10x is easier than 2x. And my clients often reach out to me and ask books. And if anyone wants, by the way, I'll give you my top 10 books. I looked this up yesterday. There's 129 million books published in history. Most of them, in my opinion, are garbage. I'm trying to find the valuable ones that can really change your world. And I've been curating that for 9 years now. So my top 10 books, I'll give them to you. And we're also creating an NLU book list and all that stuff. Nice. But anyway, so reach out. Alan at nextleveluniverse.com. The link will be in the show notes, or my email will be in the show notes. Why was I talking about all that? Hold on.
You got this.
I do.
I know. I'm there with you.
I forget. Oh my God, this keeps happening.
So it was right there. It was right there for me. And then when I started laughing, it escaped it was like, I'm out.
Yeah. I told Kev recently.
Hold on.
I think I'm approaching burnout. I'm so sorry, listeners. I think
Alan usually has a steel trap, and even today I was like, hey man, I think you're a little bit off.
I am. I'm not as sharp as I once was.
So you were talking about books.
Mm-hmm.
This is the worst advice you've ever been given. Oh, work less.
Okay, I'm reading a book called 10x is easier than 2x. And this client reached out to me asking what book she should read next because she's loving Same As Ever. Shout out to anyone in book club. Same As Ever by Morgan Housel. You guys are loving it. Appreciate all the love. Keep it up. Awesome. And I wanted to recommend 10x is easier than 2x because it is an important book. But I had this moment. I was like, Alan, don't recommend that book. If she takes it literally and can't understand the layers of it, it's dangerous. And the reason why is because the whole book is predicated on how to achieve more by doing less. It's very dangerous for someone who doesn't understand the principle of the Pareto principle that we can't get into now, but for someone who already works 80 hours a week like Emilia and I, it's a really good book because we're going to work smarter and not harder because you can only work so hard until you burn out, which I'm obviously doing. So I need that book. Someone who's not yet working the 8 hours a week, it's very dangerous because I think people who say work smart, not hard, which also I would put in the category of the bad advice, what they don't realize is that, Kev, you and I worked hard before we could figure out how to work smart. Mm-hmm. Some of the breakthroughs we've had came from working so hard that we had no choice but to innovate. And so that's the worst advice I ever got is try to achieve more with less, and by doing less, I should say. and try to work smart, not hard. I think those are both very dangerous advice, particularly for young people. And you and I, statistically speaking, are still very young.
I would agree. Yeah, I'd agree. Because there's, just like anything else, there's layers. It's really hard to preface it with, if you are already maximizing the amount of effort you can put in based on the time you have, then we should focus on working smarter. Because that's not, you can't put that on anything. It's just it's too long. It's too in-depth. But yeah, I would definitely agree. I was going to add something. Maybe I wasn't.
Kevin and I are both going to work on some R&R because it looks like we might be burning out.
No, I think for me this was kind of a freestyle Friday on a Tuesday.
What was your best advice? Did you already give it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was you, son.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Nice.
Kid's out here in the forest with his chips, riding his unicorns. Steve McQueen's there with his thick-ass glasses. Baby.
Yeah.
You know?
The work hard, not smart thing, or work smart, not hard thing, I think it's work hard until you get to a place where you learn, then work smart, then get to that new level, the next level, and then work hard, then innovate to the next level, then work smart, then work hard. I think it's work hard, then smart, then hard, then smart, then hard, then smart. I think everything's a duality, and I was never taught it. I don't think you were either, dude.
No.
In school, we never were taught the understanding of holding two seemingly opposing ideas in your consciousness simultaneously. I think that's got to be the most important thing in the world.
I dig it. All right, Next Level Nation, group coaching. So if you're listening to this on Tuesday, which this episode is dropping Tuesday, 7 days from today, we have our 15th round of group coaching starting.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to maintain your momentum throughout the summer, again, summer is an interesting time because a lot of people are taking time off. If you want to accomplish more throughout the summer and you want to get to the end of the summer having accomplished many of your goals and being the most consistent version of yourself, click the link in the show notes. It'll take you to the landing page. We want to have 10 of the most aligned people possible. It's always our goal to really, really make a great group where people all vibe and everybody is of similar core values, core beliefs, and core aspirations. So if you're that type of person, get in the group. We'd love to have you.
If you think Kevin and I are really motivated and consistent, we appreciate it. But one of the reasons why that is because we have all these communities around us that force us to stay accountable.
Yes.
The 10-pound in 10-week challenge community, keeping us accountable in fitness. The NLU team, keeping us accountable with tracking habits. Group coaching, keeping us accountable with being engaged in WhatsApp. Next Level Nation, keeping us accountable with staying engaged with the community. So when you're a part of a bigger team, especially for those of us who struggle with people pleasing and appeasing, you're going to be far better off because you'll do more for others than you will for yourself. And that's the heart-driven way. And I think that you need to leverage that on yourself. So group coaching was designed for people like you. And if that resonates, I'm telling you, NLU listener, promo code, it comes to $96 a month. This is the most affordable coaching you can ever get, and we put a lot of time and effort into making this the best 90 days possible.
Right on. Yeah, you get how many calls?
12.
12 calls total.
Comes to less than $25 a call.
It's a lot. It's a lot of value.
It's a lot of value for very little money.
If I was creeping my way through the woods with a bag of chips, unicorn on my right hip, I'd love to have group coaching on my left hip.
Nice.
Thank you so much. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. We're grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we don't have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Talk to you soon.